Hello and welcome to Can't Find My Way Home, the podcast where expats from around the globe talk about the music and art scene in their adopted home. I'm your host, Craig.
I think I just piggybacked off what the kids were doing. So when Instagram was in its infancy, a couple years later, my son was born, and I told my wife, maybe you should make an Instagram page with my son. And within 6 months, he's doing photo shoots with, celebrities. And so the baby market was really, really big. And I never really thought of it. I mean, you do see the foreign celebrities in Korea, but you don't really see a lot of the other stuff because it's more geared towards like children's products. And so the first couple things I did just were like modeling for strollers and those types of things. And then I started to do some more video commercial type things. And then just a couple weeks ago, I was in a rap video, The Uneducated Kid.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. It's about 5 hours. So, I mean, it's pretty. And then once you get into it, what I think's interesting, one is I didn't know it existed, but it's a completely different group of people. They're not teachers. They've never been teachers. They're coming from all over the world, and that's what they do for a living, and so it's a completely different perspective of Korea, the work style, the lifestyle, opportunities. And so it's kind of a fresh feeling in a way of like you're talking with people that have no outside perspective other than just being, a model. So, I mean, how do you get into? I mean, I think especially with like Instagram these days, all the recruiters, there's different agencies, and I mean, I know with COVID it's been more difficult for them, but it seems like for some of them it's quite a lucrative thing. I mean,
for anyone who's interested, the way it happened for me, or the way I kind of got into it, was twofold. One was, I think I just even answered an ad on Craigslist.
Okay.
This is going back some time. That might have been the first time something happened. And then after that, someone's got your number, and then they would have like a list of things that you can do. So mine would be playing drums or looking Scottish or whatever it was. These are my extraordinary skills, So they're like, okay, they know. Small feet, whatever it was, wide hands, whatever it was, you're kind of you can contribute to this kind of thing. Whatever mold you fitted. So sometimes I would get emails or phone calls, and they would say, we need, or my age even, it might be a guy who was 35 to 40 or whatever it was that we're looking for. And they would say, can you do this or can you do that? Or do you know how to do archery? And you're like, yeah, of course, right? Because when I grew up, everyone runs about with a bow and arrow, right?
Right.
Sidearms and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, you took some interesting jobs. And of course, the job I was doing at the time, the university work, also, you didn't really work 5 days a week. You had a Tuesday maybe, or whatever day it was off. Or sometimes they happened on the weekend, but I mean, these were quite long shoots and all that kind of stuff. You would be sitting in your hands for hours on end, and then they're like, okay, go, and you're like, oh. The other thing that I did was, the last thing that I did before I left was for Disney. It was Shanghai Disneyland or Disneyland China, or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but I did a video for Frozen. That was like a 2-day shoot thing.
Did you sing?
So yeah. There's only so much I can take, I think. So basically, well, I was an elder in the village, or I was going to say a member of the village people, but I think they were going down a different path here, But I was an old man. I was an old man in the village, even though obviously by my good looks, I'm not that old. Compared to the kid who was in the video, I'm an old man, right? So yeah, that was interesting.
Well, I mean, and you have the experience of, I mean, I would go on some of these shoots, and the amount of money that you would make from doing it would take me maybe a week in the teaching world. And so when I'm talking to some of these younger models and they're, I wouldn't say complaining, but they're kind of like, well, it was kind of long for the money. I say, yeah, but you don't have the perspective of, it might take you 10 hours to make that in the teaching world. You just did nothing for 4 hours. And, so it's tempting in a way. I mean, I wish I could do it. I think I'm a little aged out now. Like you said, you have to have those niche roles. So I have been able to get in doing kind of business type of attire.
What was the thing you did recently before the video that you just posted with the
I did
Korean
a
rapper
fishing,
guy?
a fishing,
That
a
was it,
fishing
yeah.
one.
Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. So it's funny because my wife said, okay, you've got this job. You got to go down here. And they sent me the script. So in the taxi going down, I'm reading the script and it's for a shower, like a travel shower head. So I get there and I
The
show up.
QVC we're talking about or something, isn't it? It's,
Yeah. So like I show up and I get in there and they've got this fishing apparatus, right? It weighs the fish and measures the fish. And I go, but like I was just reading the script for the shower head, and they go, "Oh no, that's a different one. You're going to do this fishing thing," and on the spot, literally on the spot. So I said, "Oh, okay." So I changed and had to act like I was it's a company, and I like the idea. The company they do the videos for Kickstarters. So a lot of the Korean companies, they want to have sort of an international feel, and they don't have the skills, at least the English skills. And so they hire out a company that does the script and gets the actors and does the final product for them. And so I was like the main guy who was the team campaign head or something. So I'm like, hello.
the big
So, yeah,
cheese.
I'm Nick and I'm da, 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 da. And I mean, they got their goal. But when I uploaded, a lot of my friends are like, man, I didn't know you had a fishing company.
Right,
said,
yeah. It has a kind of surreal element to it.
I don't have a fishing company. But I mean, I think that's the thing now is that I don't believe that sort of, especially for the small business, it didn't exist in the years past. Now it's pretty cheap to be able to do it and record, and there's a market internationally that maybe wasn't there in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
YouTube wasn't even really in existence at that time. So it's when I first came, I remember a couple people that did the show in Korea. The show in Korea where it's like the reenactment show.
The surprise
Yeah,
on
right.
a Sunday morning, or
Right, yeah, Sunday
the
morning.
live show, Sunday morning, yeah, surprise.
So I knew a couple guys that did that type of thing.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine owned a restaurant down in Pangyo, and he was the chef for Outback Steakhouse when they did their commercials. But outside of like those big opportunities, there wasn't a lot of the smaller opportunities out there, and it wasn't really a trend to have foreign parents in videos. And I think that's where it kind of jumped off. Was a lot of the videos that I'll do is usually like children type of things, and it's two foreign parents. But there's a lot more smaller opportunities now because it doesn't cost as much to edit videos and film, and there's a purpose for it. They can put it on YouTube, they do Kickstarter, it's for Instagram, whatever, their outlet is. So, I don't know what there was when I first came. But now it seems like there's quite a bit, and it seems like a pretty legit market. I mean, I've met quite a few people that do it actually for a living. I don't think that I would do that, but just based on, I don't know if it would be consistent enough.
Right.
Type of thing.
You don't know where it's going to take a dip, unless you know where the bodies are, I suppose, right? It's
right.
It's kind of.
I mean, but some of these, man, you get a little envious in the sense of some of these people that I work with. I mean, they're flowing all over the place. They'll fly them down to Jeju to do a couple days shoot, stay in a nice hotel. And we got one of those this summer. We actually got to go to the ocean side, and they paid for the hotel right on the beach, and so it was kind of a vacation that we got paid for, and the kids did it with me. So I was just kind of a stand-in. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I think, like you were saying too, you have to be on a certain visa or you have to have the certain job. For an E2, I don't think it's a viable thing.
Yeah,
It's
you're going to
probably
need a specific kind of visa for it, eh? Like
right,
just
right.
if you're sponsored by your academy or whatever school you work for, or the one of these elementary school programs kind of thing, you might not be able to do it.
No, but I mean, I just met a woman the other day. I think she's 65, and she came directly here. She's Jewish, so she lived half in America and half in Israel. And she's retired, and she decided to come to Korea to be a actress. And she does like all the grandmother roles. And she just got an
Crazy,
apartment.
man.
Yeah, and she got with an agency, and they sponsored her visa. I don't know the exact visa type.
Yeah, okay.
And I mean, she says she does all right. She says she makes better money than if she was working at, a grocery store in America or something. And she's like, I get to see the world and pretty low stress level. So, I mean, it's a market for everybody. I mean, there's not that many older looking foreigners in Korea usually that would be up for doing it. So there's a market for that.
Would you say that it's something that you would like to carry on with, regardless of your kids, how them growing up and so on? But is there other opportunities that you would like to
Yeah,
delve into
definitely.
yourself?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the modeling and the acting, or within that,
Yeah, 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 exactly.
outside of
Like
it.
when you could, yeah, yeah.
Well,
The other things that can spring from it.
I think, I mean, I could see where maybe you could turn it into, I don't know how much you could profit off of it, but when I went and did the Kickstarter, I noticed a lot of problems with like script, for instance. And so I think you could do something on a small scale yourself, where if you had the equipment, the problem is you would have to get connected with the companies that are looking for that type of service, right? When I did the rap video, I did some directing as I was in there, because the guy, he had his own little crew, and so eh, I saw things and I said, well, maybe you should do this or you should do that. If you check out the video, it's my brag, but when you check out the video, he's reading the newspaper upside down. And I told him, I said, why don't you hold it upside down because you're uneducated? He's like, oh, good idea. So he held the newspaper upside down. Um, so like within that, I see like little areas of being able to prosper from it. My
Mm,
biggest thing that I was trying to do here, and I got it off the ground, and then it's hard because you have to rely on people. But what we do with the kids is it's in all content. I guess what do they call them? Social media influencers.
yeah.
There's a lot of a lot of merchandise out there that you can obtain for free. And so with the kids, they get all sorts of stuff, that you can then flip and turn it into profit. You know, and so what I started to do, I started my own little kind of agency business. And what I would do is I was kind of the middleman where I would contact the photographers and I would contact the companies that were offering some product, whatever fit their niche. So, for instance, at my last school, there was a professional golfer. So I told her, I said, listen, I will contact companies in America and see if they want to use you as an influencer. So I found her a contract of an American golf company. And so now she's got a golf company that's supplying her with free product, shirts and clubs and all these types of things. And then what I do is I contact a local photographer in Korea, and they have an opportunity to take pictures for a company that's already established for a golfer,
Yeah, right.
for a golfer who's up and coming. So now it's like a circle. So the golfer gets the free stuff and the free photo shoots, which helps out her Instagram. The company who's supplying the product gets the golfer, and the photographer gets the free publicity of taking pictures of a golfer using a product.
And probably join another part of a network as well at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now you have this circle of life. And you'd be surprised how many opportunities, because photographers are always wanting, they will charge, but a lot of the times they want a good model and they'll do it for free. So, and the models can get free product, which then they can just end up selling, right? Once they've done taking pictures with them. And I saw it across the board where I could do it with artists, and I could do it with models, and you could do it with athletes. So that's the biggest thing I've been trying to work on lately, is sort of trying to connect. I say everybody's screaming into a giant tunnel, look at me, look at my service, but there's too much of it out there. And so you need to kind of have those connections to be able to promote what you're doing through another avenue, and then they can promote you through another avenue. And I think there's enough small business out there now. It's not like, if you're a drummer, you don't have to get you don't have to call Zildjian, or you don't have to call one of the big companies. There's enough out there now that you can start small and work your way up, where you can kind of get some networking going. So, I mean, that's kind of what I was hoping. I started doing it last year, and then it kind of fell off because people are not very reliable at times. So it's hard. You set up a photo shoot, and then the model can't do it, and then the photographer's angry. And
you end up with all this stuff in your hands, right? And you're kind of like, yeah.
And when you're starting out, you're not doing it for a ton of compensation. But right. I saw it with the kids. I mean, that's what happened with the kids. I mean, we would get free photo shoots because the photo studios wanted to use the kids. And so now the kids can build their portfolio. Now they take their portfolio, and now they can go to the bigger companies. And now they're going to start getting paid for it. And then they start getting free products. So then we could take some of that product and we can sell some of that. We don't need 67 t-shirts. So you start to kind of build on each other. And so I think if you're in Korea and you're a musician, or if you're an artist or whatever it is, I think there's opportunities. You just have to kind of get out there and find it. And a lot of people just don't do it because, they're busy or they don't know about it. That type of thing,
Some of the characters you met on these shoots, whether they're video shoots, photo shoots, and the like, and you were just explaining there about the lady who spent half her time in the States and Israel and stuff. I mean, it's amazing where some of the people you meet along the way, you're just kind of like, this is it's a little bit surreal, actually. But if we look at maybe the younger market in this sense, because primarily it's younger people who are going to go to South Korea either to work, to teach, to study, and so on. People in their early 20s to early 30s, I would say. Right. Maybe this is the kind of demographic. You just wonder whether the linguistic skills that they might have as well could make a difference. Have you found
huge
anything like that along the way?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's my ignorance. I feel silly every time people ask, like, oh, well, you must be Korean. And I'm like, no, I must not. Not well enough. Yeah, that's the biggest part. I think and that's the different perspective of things. I didn't come here to study Korean. I didn't come here for Korean history, although I did come to Korea because I wanted to go to Asia and that type of thing. But that wasn't my sole purpose. I came as an English teacher. And I mean, clear as day, I remember the first job I had. They said, you can't study, you can't take English classes. because we don't want you to waste your time away from work. And I'm like, okay. So
Korean
it's just
classes even.
right. So like they didn't want that because then they've got you on lockdown. You're a complete helpless, person.
Yeah. Well, you just go
Um,
through that spit cycle of just rinse and repeat, over and over again for the next year. That's it.
yep. And so but when I meet all of these younger people that are coming from all over, I mean, they're coming from Europe, America, South America. There's even some from Africa. I mean, all over. They are coming here they're coming here, a lot of them as exchange students. They're coming as language students. So it's a different, they're coming here for I'm not saying I didn't love Korea, but they're coming for their love of Korean things, music and dramas and those types of things that they've seen. And so a lot of them I've met were already speaking Korean before they came here, right? They were studying it in their home
Mm.
country. I met a girl from Poland the other day I was on a shoot with, and she was studying Korean in Poland and then came to Korea. Um, and so, yeah, that's huge because it's, you're working for Korean companies. And I mean, most of them, they're not speaking any English at all. So if you're going to get into that, I would say that that is a definite must. And there's going to be, because you're going to do, I know a girl, she's pretty popular. She does television and does, dramas and commercials and all those types of things. And she's fluent in Korean because most of those things are not in English. I mean, she goes on the TV shows and she's speaking in Korean the whole time. She's in a movie and whatever, talk show. So definitely, the Korean thing is, I would say without it, the only reason they hire me is because I'm cheap and I'm already here. Right.
You're selling yourself short, Nick.
But I mean, when it comes down to it, when it comes to direction and all those things, I'm kind of helpless at times, although I can follow directions well enough.
Mm.
Uh, but I can't sit down and have a conversation about the tourism in Jeju in
Right.
Korea, you know? Yeah. So I would definitely say that the Korean side of things, if they're gonna, if you're interested in it, the language you would definitely want to have.
Do you think that there's also this, they have a specific type of person? I mean, Korea's had some issues in the past, if we just focus on South Korea anyway, where they've, like, blackfacing, I believe the phrase is, right, or the term. And they've used this kind of certain stereotype of
Right.
quote unquote foreigners in these kind of ways. I mean, have you come across anything like this in your path?
And for like the acting and all that stuff.
Mm. Because,
I
they're
mean,
using certain stereotypes to sell certain products. I
right.
don't know if this happens anymore, but
I
you
think it
see it from
does.
time to time.
I definitely think it does. Yeah, I mean, not not super personally. I mean, I get why they use foreigners for a lot of the products because they want to have that image. I mean, that is probably the most benign that I've seen of it, is that they could just as easily use Korean people, but they want to have this product feel as like an international type of thing. I mean, I haven't really been put in. I know a lot of the people, when you go into some of these things, you have to be extremely positive about all aspects of the society here. So I had like an interview, they were talking about businesses, and I don't think they used my bit because I was kind of bad mouthing sort of the bigger businesses and their control and their squashing of creativity um but I mean, I haven't seen too much. And I think outside of the racial part of it, if you want to act like a fool and you know it, I say then I guess it's up to you. It's a bit sad that we get kind of bunched into it because when people do see that on TV, you are playing the fool. Um, but I mean, I don't, my whole take on that side of it too, I think has always been, it's more out of a out of the side of ignorance than hate when it comes to some of that stuff. So the a couple months ago, viral video of the guy, I forget which country in Africa, but they were carrying the coffins,
Oh yeah, I think it's
coffin
Ghana.
dance.
Might be
Okay.
Ghana.
And here, a bunch of the Korean high school students were kind of dressed, they did the black face and did the type of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a hate. It was just more of not understanding what was wrong with it.
Right.
Um, but I haven't seen too much. I mean, like, at least not in our part of it. I mean, they will make you kind of play the foolish monkey kind of role in the sense of like, you've got to play the clueless idiot foreigner, but it's not like a racial tone as much, at least not in my perspective.
It's just a part. Yeah. It's just you're just filling a role.
But if you flipped it, and let's say you were doing this in Scotland, America, Germany, and you had Asians playing a role of like a stupid person, I think then it would be not as acceptable.
Right. You probably wouldn't get away with it, period.
And so like that's what, I was just watching TV the other day, and they had some foreigners, like a couple, and they were eating at a Korean restaurant, and like they couldn't use chopsticks. And
We've all been there, mate. It's
like everything was extremely foreign to them, even like the most basic dishes that you would have in any country. Like I think there was a fish dish, and they're like looking at it like they've never seen fish before. And so like that's not the racial component. That's just more of the
no.
clueless. I've always said one of the best reality shows would be take the mothers I grew up with in Central New York and send them to China for 6 months. I think that would be an amazing show of seeing these people completely out of water, stuck in a place where they can't speak the language, just clueless to what the food is. And that's what's kind of fun about traveling. I don't mind those as much as some of the shows where like when somebody eats food, everything is the most delicious food they've ever eaten.
Or it's the hottest.
The hottest, the most delicious. My daughter watches a Korean show with 2 Korean girls who will eat candy. It's terrible. It's extremely unhealthy. But everything is so sour. And I'm like, it's not that sour. But like it's that overreaction stuff.
Right.
That's more disingenuous. I feel like, my funniest thing coming here, I went to a Chinese restaurant the first or second day I was in Korea, and I knew Chinese food from America. So I went in to the restaurant, Korean Chinese restaurant, and I said, okay, I know one thing. I know Lau mein. So I went up to the counter and I was like, Lau mein. And the lady was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, Lau mein. I had no idea.
Just keep repeating the same thing,
And so then I just picked up a menu and I just pointed at something I thought was something I'd eaten, and I don't even know what I ordered, and I brought it back and it was nothing that I'd ever experienced. So like that to me is more genuine of an experience. No, I mean I haven't seen too much of that. I think they're probably getting audited more now, in the sense of, if you're going to get it out there and it's going to be put on YouTube and Instagram and those types of things, I think people see what you're doing now much, much easier, and they'll call you out a lot quicker on some of those actions.
Yeah, I mean, kind of slightly moving away from where we started in the kind of more visual or photographic of opportunities. There's also the radio industry in South Korea that offers quite a lot of opportunities for expats, foreigners, whatever you want to call them, and Korean Americans particularly. Alike. There's the, I forget what it's called now. I worked for them for years. TBS EFM or Arivan Radio.
I used to play your show. I forget what place I was working at. I used to put it on the radio because we used to have a little radio.
5 p.m. every Wednesday. That was us, right?
It was my evening class, and I would put it on the cassette player on the AM, and I'd listen to it in the car sometimes too when I was driving.
I was quite lucky. I was given an opportunity to do it, and it ran for a very long time. I think the only reason it stopped country. They couldn't get rid of me, you know. But yeah, I was happy. I was working with good people, and I was in a kind of niche where been able to produce content, you know. And we did the show live as well, which was quite exciting. You know, you kind of just into that whole different mindset of how to do things
Well,
and stuff.
and it's fruitful for everybody. My biggest thing here is I think why it hasn't worked to integrate people from other countries as much is you have to give people the same opportunities to do what they love, maybe not on the same scale, but you have to give people who are here from other places that opportunity to have an outlet of something they really enjoy. If not, you create a lot of miserable people who don't really aren't satisfied with their journey. So I mean, you as a musician, you get to come here, you got to be in a band the whole time you're here, you got to be on the radio and talk about music, and that makes your day in daily life a lot more tolerable and
Mm,
productive feeling, right?
yeah.
And that's one of the things I noticed here when I first came was is you really have to find those things because if not, there's not a lot of alternatives for you to really get involved in things. And that's been the biggest downfall. You can't get involved in, there are clubs and those types of things you can do.